I'm going to answer a question that I've been asked a slew of times over the years, but I've never really had any good advice to give on it, and so I never answered it. But in this past year, one of my students basically was almost, I don't want to call him a guinea pig because we didn't do this intentionally, but we figured out some stuff, and I'll share it with you guys. And so basically the question is about rib injuries. So I've gotten asked a lot of times from people that have had rib injuries. They're like, how do you train around or with a rib injury? And I've never had a rib injury, so I don't know. I've had an intercostal pull, which was terrible, but nothing like a real bad rib injury. So I didn't have a good answer, and not a lot of my students have had them either. But about a year and a half or so ago, one of my students had a pretty bad rib injury. Now, to give you context to who this person was before the rib injury, right? I feel like his name's Jeff, and Jeff, like when I think of Jeff, there's literally like it's like ACE, BC and AD or whatever, like with time. It's like there's BR, right? Before the rib injury, Jeff. And then there's AR, after rib injury Jeff. So before rib injury Jeff, he was like just all smash pressure, double leg takedowns, power doubles, just that was Jeff. And again, nothing wrong with that. Jeff now has that game still if he wants it, but he's got this really good bottom game, very technical game on the bottom that he's developing. He's very offensive and good from the bottom now. That game wasn't there. And again, it was caused primarily because of this rib injury, which we'll get into. So I just think that was a fun thing to sort of say. The rib injury actually made him better, surprisingly. But so he got his rib injury a year and a half ago or whatever, and he would come back to training, and then again, he keeps injuring himself because he's powering through doing that heavy power game, just blast double legs, pressure passing, everything else. And in one instance, he was away training with some friends, and he told me he hit this beautiful lat drop, like with like a takedown, like lifted up and got a beautiful throw. And then he was like, yeah, but now I'm in the ER and I've got to get my rib looked at because this is super painful. So it wasn't worth it. Anyway, he starts to kind of like yield to that and say, you know what? This game is not for me. I need to chill out right now. And then he started to adopt this bottom game. I think it was also too, I told him for his black belt, I was like, that's one of the things you need to work on. So he started developing his bottom game, and he's gotten a lot better there, and he started to work in positions that didn't hurt him. So that was step one. Step two, which was a first for me, is one day I was training with Jeff, and he had on this padding under his rash guard. I was like, what are you wearing? And so I'll put the link down for it if any of you guys are experiencing something like this. He got this, like, it's like a football padding type thing. It's just like extra padding that primarily is around the ribs. And so after he was working these positions that weren't as rough on his ribs, they didn't require as much power, that kept causing the rib injury, what it allowed him to do was train in different positions that didn't hurt it or affect it, but then he would put that padding on as just an extra little bit so that if people came down on it, they didn't hit it and re-injure it. And it's been very useful to him. So again, he worked around his injury in the sense that he found positions that didn't hurt him. And then on top of that, he added a little bit of protection with the ribs with that padding, and that was it. And he's been on the mats, and through that rib injury, he's gotten much better. Now again, it still required some, rest. He had to sit out and let it mend to some degree, but then afterwards he was able to get back to it. And so I share that with you guys. If you're, one of the psychos, just like the rest of us, who want to train as much as you can, even through injury sometimes, because they're not super serious, but you want to do something, this could be a way around it. If you've got a rib injury that's not like awful, that could be worked around, you can play positions that don't hurt it, letting your training partners obviously know that your rib's jacked up, and then wear some padding with it as well, and you can sort of incrementally increase the intensity. And that's one of the things that he's done over this past year or so. And again, now he's back to rolling at pretty regular speed, and he didn't skip a beat in the process. He actually came out of the injury better because he was able to focus. He had to focus on a different technique in his game, and now he's got a whole new side of his game available to him. So anyway, hopefully this is useful to you guys, and if you have a rib injury, I hope it heals up soon, and I'll talk to you guys next time.